I would like to call the meeting to order. And those present today are myself, Marcia Martin, Sheila Conroy, Susan Ailing, Julie Hauser, Art Quintana, Michelle Precutt, and Prudence Carter. Do we have any guests this morning? I see no guests. I hear no guests.
I had no invitations or requests.
As far as reviewing protocol, I think we're going to be voting on some things today, like officers, and raise of hand where they can be seen. If everyone is comfortable with that, will that be okay? All right. Well, introductions and welcomes. I would like to introduce Julie and Sheila as our new board members and welcome them. They're all very well known to us, so I think that their introduction has preceded them here today. We have no public to be heard. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes from last meeting? And if so, are there any corrections?
I see no corrections. I think Sarah did a commendable job as usual, and I would move that we accept the minutes as written.
I hear a second for that movement. The movement was made by Susan and seconded by Art and Prudence, Michelle, so you can note that. Moving on to old business, we've welcomed the new board members, and I know this is a real exciting time for everyone because we want to confirm officers for 2021. And I am anxious to hear if there are those people that are interested in being president for this next year. Where are all those hands? No hands? Susan?
I will be glad to step up. Perhaps someone's interested in being secretary. I was thinking perhaps you, Prudence?
Sure.
Whoa, 2 with 1.
All right. Vice President. All right. Great. Art's going to do vice president. I love it. This is great. Now, I'm not sure of the protocol, Michelle. Perhaps you can, either Michelle, a motion for each position.
You can do a motion by position, or you can do a motion for the slate. If somebody wants to however, whoever makes the motion would like to do that, and then a second, and then a vote.
I'll make a motion for the slate.
I'll second that.
So the slate will be Susan for president, Art for vice president, and Prudence for secretary.
And then a vote on that, Janine.
Can we have a motion for accepting those people in positions? And it has been seconded. We can show hands for those who are ayes. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Prudence, raise your hand. There, she's got water.
Okay, got it, Prudence. The ayes have it. Everyone has voted to approve. So congratulations. And Susan, I am very happy to help in any way I can. To
Thank you,
assist.
Janine. You've done a great job this year. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Yeah, great.
Well, thank you. Now, positions are available for,
So this is how I read the December minutes. And Michelle Kriega, maybe you have an update from TRG, but at this point, Michelle is on the city's technical review group. That is the affordable housing group that does a fund recommendation, and she is your representative till the end of March. And I don't know, Michelle, what you're thinking about. If something were to happen, you'd shoot an email to myself or to Susan now, and we'd share that, or how you want to do that. And that position, my understanding is the TRG might be undergoing some change as to how they operate. Maybe you have an update on that. Maybe we won't need to refill that in April. So that's one. And then Jack wanted to continue on the sustainability committee, but that we don't have any information about how if he wants to continue to relay that or represent you, or if there's somebody else on the current board who'd like to step in and join that sustainability committee. So those were the two that didn't jump out at me from the minutes as to having any resolution. So Michelle, do you want to talk a little bit about the TRG and what you know?
Well, I know that there has been some structural change. It used to be that TRG would meet and then they would send information to the HHS or whatever, the housing, the larger board. And so towards the end of the year that got changed, where there were joint meetings with the applicants for money for housing development. And I know that there was a kind of last minute request for money, and it went before the housing board, and I wasn't able to attend, so I don't know what's going on with that. I know there's something coming up right now with Cinnamon Park, which is actually relevant to this group. But we're just in the process of trying to organize a time when everybody can meet, and there's kind of trying to fast track it a little bit. As far as restructuring, I haven't heard anything about any restructuring that would, so anyway, I can't respond to that because I don't know what's going on, and if that would eliminate our kind of participation in that, or the need for some representative from the board. But anyway, and I'm happy to do, I guess what I'll do is just kind of keep an email touch with you, Michelle, and you, Susan, through, I don't know, through March or until March, I don't know. So I'm happy to do that.
So we should just kind of hold this spot until we know more about the structural piece, and some late, maybe February or March, you'll have some information.
Yeah. Well, now that you've alerted me, maybe I'll reach out to Kathy.
Yeah, she's been out, but she is now back working. She's working from home, but she is working. So she should be respond. Okay.
So should I make a motion that Michelle remains in that position for the time being?
I think we already did that, Janine.
I thought we did it last month.
So I'm just going to put this down as a future agenda item for later in the spring, if that makes the most sense. Okay.
And sustainability, I was alternate to Jack for sustainability, and I am willing to attend those meetings unless someone else is interested in having that position. Can I hear a motion on that if anyone else, or if anyone is interested in being on sustainability?
I motion that Janine be our representative on the sustainability committee.
I'll second it.
Thanks. And any other old business?
Well, this is a little late in the game, but it's probably important to say, which is according to your bylaws. So you are now a board of 6. Typically, the advisory boards have an odd number with an alternate. And you don't have that 7th position and you don't have an alternate. The bylaws read a quorum is 4, and it actually says 4 in the bylaws. So I think that still stands true for a vote of 6 of you. So I just want to just point that out and acknowledge that. If there were a tie, for some reason, a 3-3 thing, my experience has been is the president doesn't vote. But I don't know if one of you want to just sort of say until we fill those other positions, if you want to identify how you want to do a tie, if there was one, just so we have this done before we would ever need to employ it. So I'm just throwing it out there. It's not really old business, but I don't want to move too far along in the agenda.
So are we still on the hunt for another person?
So that's actually an agenda item down under new business. Council and maybe Marcia can update us, but they won't do appointments again until late spring. So we have some time to do some recruitment, but it will likely be a board of 6 for the next several months anyways.
And I'm happy to step back so that if there's a tie vote, don't count me. That's fine.
Do we need to make a motion for that?
I think it would be helpful just to have an agreement about how you want to do tiebreakers.
Yeah.
So
I see a show of hands for people that accept that agreement, that in the event of a tie that Susan will step back from the vote. Okay, that would be all of us. All righty.
Good thing we're not split down the middle on that one.
I know.
We'd let Marcia make the choice. Defer to the higher authority here.
All right. Moving on to new business, health and wellness in the facility. Michelle, is that your?
Yeah, so that's my agenda item. And I don't know how many of you know the history, how many of you have been familiar, but since 2001, Longmont United Hospital has had a presence here at the senior center. They have had office space. They have had a massage room. They have been a partner in doing health education programs, health screenings, skin cancer screenings, et cetera, balance screenings. And so early last year and even late fall of 2019, Longmont United Hospital started making changes. And over the course of the last year and a half, they have closed their Center for Health Integrated Medicine. They have laid off their massage therapists, their staff. That core entity whom we've had the relationship with no longer really exists. They still have an office here, though no one's been occupying it since we've been closed due to COVID. So I'm throwing this idea out there. We wrote that scope of services 20 years ago. Longmont United, the YMCA were applicants to move in and be a health and wellness partner. Is it time to maybe use this closure time and the rethinking at LUH to redesign, reopen, redo a health and wellness scope of services and look for a different approach? Maybe not a different partner, but I'm just kind of throwing this open to you all. You as a board 20 years ago, the board chose the health and wellness provider who moved into the senior center. You would be involved in this if we go this route. So I'm just kind of throwing the doors open, wiping the slate clean, and see what you think. Prudence.
How, with the health and wellness services, do we know what their utilization is? Were they used, was some used and some not used? I guess is really where I'm aiming.
Yeah, great question. So we stuck with a regular free nurse clinic for the last 20 years. It never gained the numbers that I wanted it to gain. But also during the 20 years, Walgreens did free flu shots, and you could go to any pharmacy on a certain day and talk to somebody about something. So it never really gained the traction I wanted it to gain. The massage on the days it was here was very popular. They were key in our health education programs because they had all the contacts with the physicians and the nurse practitioners and the specialists. They had their finger on the pulse of what was happening in the healthcare world. We were really fortunate. We had some pretty innovative folks who were on staff, and we did programs on sexuality. We did programs on death and dying and choice around death and dying. We did a lot of, I think, pretty cutting edge, innovative kinds of things because of their partnership. Again, it wasn't always super significant, like 300 people showed up.
Right, no.
But it was important, and it was good, and it was balanced from a traditional medicine to more complementary medicine. So we had that whole range. Yeah. Susan.
And that is probably the most missed part of the senior center for me. I would attend the seminars, the lectures, and bring that back to the community. I would use the massage. I attended the death and dying clinics. I found it fascinating and well worth the time and effort spent to have this in the senior center.
Janine and then Sheila.
Answer your question, Michelle. Yes, I think we need to continue to pursue, whether we need to alter the program or not. I think that the health and wellness aspect at the senior center is extremely important to be able to offer that to people in need. And I have mentioned before that, especially under the circumstances, I am more than happy to volunteer in any way I can. I know that there were a massage therapy group that were let go at the hospital. I also know that they have a private practice.
Right.
They've opened a private practice, so I'm wondering if we might be able to contact them and see if they are still interested in supporting the senior center in some way. And if attendance is an issue, then maybe we can alter the number of programs that are presented without completely eliminating those programs, because I think they're extremely important.
Sheila.
Yes, you mentioned the flu shots, and that's really gone by the wayside as far as including that in the health and wellness. What other, excuse me, what other activities do you feel are underutilized so that, in a word, they could be eliminated in the reincarnation?
Yeah, I think that so along the way, we did some acupuncture. That was great. And then as Longmont grew, we had a private acupuncture clinics pop up, and we were able to make adjustments along the way with some things. One of my disappointments was that originally Longmont United Hospital managed a foot clinic, and they got out of the foot clinic business. And so we had an agreement with a private foot care provider. I want that to come back, but I want it to be under the management of a healthcare organization. I don't want to have to manage the rules and the regs around that. So I want foot care to come back. I want massage to come back. I want health education to come back. And one of the really great things about the partnership was their staff and our staff would come together. So every quarter they would meet and they would talk about, what are you seeing? And so we did a whole series on incontinence because several folks throughout the center were working with people who were really struggling, who were becoming very isolated because of their incontinence, who were really not getting the treatment they felt like they needed for their incontinence. And so that partnership around programming is really where the creativity came from, Sheila, and where new programs would emerge or new educational things would emerge. And that partnership was key to keeping things fresh and innovative and people coming. And so the services side, massage, foot clinic, nurse clinic, the foot clinic is probably the number one request I get. Why don't we have foot clinic services here? So that's old, but going forward, what are we going to do around pandemics? What are we going to do about our immune system, building our immune systems? I mean, there is so much coming at us that's new. I'd like to have a health partner who's a part of that. Prudence, it looks like you were about to say something.
I think Marcia was ahead of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go, Marcia. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, actually, you pretty much said it. I was just going to weigh in as a diabetic who's, losing visual acuity.
Right.
Foot care is hard.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though I haven't used the clinic, I recognize that as a really high need.
It's so interesting, the number of people who want to come here for foot care rather than a doctor's office. I find it just interesting, because there's not much privacy here around that. But Prudence.
I was going
Sorry,
to
just a minute. I need to mute for a minute.
I was thinking of one of the things you said, Michelle, is that the nurse of him or herself was not the most popular. So I'm also thinking whether we can expand the program to do something like arthritis management. And that's the use of an occupational therapist. They're the ones who really are the people who deal with your hands and stuff like that. And then I was also thinking of, and it could be an occupational therapist aide, whoever our partner is, or a physical therapist aide or PT, whoever our partner is, to work on walking and balance. I know that there are classes for that.
Mhm.
However, with both those things, arthritis and balance and walking, they come up gradually and sometimes suddenly,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and I think that, you know, those are just some ideas I had about that.
I want to come back to that, Prudence. Janine, go ahead, but you're still muted. There you go.
I just want to mention that if in any way possible, if we can work with and negotiate with, you know, a hospital or an organization, you know, part of my concerns in doing things at the senior center that I could easily do to support have to do with malpractice. And when you talk about procedural things, be it massage or acupuncture or foot care, it's very important that the person, that even if they're volunteering those services, are covered with some type of malpractice coverage, and that there is consideration for HIPAA. That's just the legal stuff that evolves around that. And I think that before, we didn't have to worry about that because it was through the hospital, through
Right.
Longmont United. So as we pursue bringing these programs back, I think that we need to pay attention to having a partner to address these issues.
So that's kind of back to my initial question at some level. So we've had a partnership with Longmont United for 20 years. In the course of the 20 years, we now have UC Health as a community health hospital and community healthcare provider. Kaiser has grown their services over the last 20 years. And we have others, you know, that have, at least in my lifetime here, have grown. So I need to end the current relationship with Longmont United if we're going to open up a new scope of services. And I want to be really clear, they have been a fabulous partner. And between their corporate changes and COVID, it's been very hard to keep that partnership connected. And I also think it's an opportune time to sort of rewrite the scope. And Prudence, you're identifying arthritis. Do they have PTs and OTs they can bring in and do work? Balance, we've always sort of done balance in September, and it's really a year-round thing. Balance is not just a fall thing. Eye care and dental care. Most hospitals don't have strong eye and dental, but what they do get is the person who let their dental issues go unchecked and they end up in the ICU with a infection throughout their body because of their lack of oral health. So I am interested in rewriting what we're looking for, and Longmont United could absolutely apply for sure. And I would hope other partners would apply. And then we would come back and review that as a board. So first we would write that scope, and then we would review any applicants who might be interested in being that on-site partner. So I am curious, because some of you have an affiliation with Longmont United, you know what a great partner they've been. Do we rewrite the scope and open it up? How do you feel about the gentle goodbye to Longmont United, and then reissuing? I am aware that there are other issues in the community. I'm trying to be very respectful and appreciative of Longmont United, but also recognize this is it's a tender thing, I guess. So, Janine?
what is the status of Longmont United? I mean, the way I look at it, I am willing to work with partnerships with whoever is willing to work with us. And I know certainly part of the issue for them was cutting back financially. So for me, I had no problem whatsoever with what they were providing and was very appreciative of it. But I wonder if, if they're limited in what they are able to provide to us, and do we need to, look farther out in the community to get the services that we want for the senior center?
Right. Prudence and then Susan.
So, Michelle, I hear what everybody's saying about Longmont United, and they kind of, I'll use this word, abandoned, their warm pool and other services. So I'm not really sure of their continued interest. And I'm wondering whether we need one provider or whether we can say, okay, let's make a list of who we can approach. Acupuncturists, massage therapists, the foot, I understand completely. And I'm wondering whether, I think it was Art. Was Art a dentist? Because he was going to reach out to some people he knew about maybe once a month or quarterly clinic for dental care. I don't know whether that happened. I had sent him, because there is a dental society.
Right. Dental Aid had reached out and we were headed down that path until COVID. We had things scheduled, we had to cancel.
Okay. Because I think, the dentist is probably the first person who notices the diabetes.
Right.
So if that's a partnership that I would like to see grow. And I think as far as Longmont United, I think it's pretty up in the air what they really want to do.
So I did get an email. Oh, Susan, and then I see Marcia. So go ahead, Susan. Sorry.
Well, in addition to the list you already have, hearing is pretty important. I had 5 people screened and 2 got hearing aids this past year.
Okay.
I think I know all the audiologists in Longmont. But, you also mentioned about foot care, and you're surprised that people would rather come to the senior center. Well, you know what? The senior center is the heart of the community as far as that goes. Not only do you get your foot tended to, you get to see people. And, a lot of this is preparing for when we can reopen. But just seeing and talking to people and, oh, you just went to the foot, what's that all about? Where you can exchange ideas and, war stories, whatever.
Yeah.
And education was so important. And the nurse screening, that's who caught my high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So
there were people who did use the nurse clinic. It just was never great numbers.
Well, I might not be great numbers, but I'm important.
It's good. Marcia.
Well, I was good. First of all, just background for me, are the clinics, or were the clinics at the senior center free?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a big reason why you might want your foot care done here as opposed to.
No, the foot care clinics were not free, but they took Medicare. Yeah, so they worked with folks. Yeah, but we were able to use some friends' money, Marcia. For example, when they had massage going on, we would identify stressed out caregivers who were caring for an older person who were really kind of on the edge stress-wise, and we could give them a free massage if they so chose. And so we did that in partnership with Longmont United, and there were caregivers who definitely took advantage of that massage. So there were ways we worked behind the scenes to make things affordable for people. So not always foot care, but we could have if Longmont United had retained management of that program, but they didn't.
So what I was thinking was, is it possible to take a kind of a general contractor approach where, you know, a broad healthcare provider would have the main contractor with the senior center, and we would offer them the opportunity to have subcontractors.
Right. Great idea.
Just throwing out the model.
Great. Great. Julie and then Art. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that idea that Marcia brought up, and with Prudence, I agree. So I guess my question is that can we have more than one group providing those services? And then if we do have more than one group, who oversees that group, and who's the main go-to that connects between the senior center and those practitioners? Because I think that we're probably not going to find one provider that provides all those services.
Right.
But I think all of those services are super important. And so can we figure out how to formulate this so that we can have all those services? And then when it comes to Longmont United, it sounds like, you know, with their trying to cut costs, that they're cutting out the services that are important to seniors. And so therefore, maybe they're not as invested as they used to be. And so maybe we can somehow reconfigure the whole program and then present it to them and see if they're interested in that. And if they're not, then we can step away from them and maybe just give them the opportunity. But it sounds like to me, from everything that I've heard, you know, throughout the last year of attending these meetings, is that they're sort of 1 foot out.
Okay. Art.
I think we can see that there's definitely an interest in that and a need for that. The question I had was, when we had Longmont United Hospital, was there any cost from the center to them for coming in and doing those things?
So not really. So if you charge for space, for square footage, they got free space here. They had 2 offices they got for free. They brought in their own technology. So we have quite a bit of Longmont United Hospital's technology here. If they did a program that there was a fee for, the city senior center got 20% of that fee. If it was free, it was free. But we handled the registration. We did a lot of the publicity through the Go. They did their own, but we did publicity. They had free space. But they paid for copies. They paid for their own phone. They paid for their own computers, their own furniture. But it was that square footage that some might argue costs the city something. That's not how I personally looked at it, but somebody more in that line. So here's my thought, and let me just throw this out. Oh, go ahead, Prudence.
I just had one comment. I'm not sure whether Longmont United, whoever was coming, was providing some level, especially when it comes to foot care, that was bilingual and bicultural.
Right. Yeah, great point. And I actually just wrote bilingual down because we did have a nurse through Longmont United who was doing a free nurse clinic bilingually once a month. We also did some programs in Spanish with their bilingual healthcare staff. And I think other providers, UC Health, Kaiser, they have bilingual staff at this point, but it's about tapping them. I'm wondering, great ideas. I'd like to sort of start to capture these as a scope of services. So we start with, this is what we're looking for. Julie's thought that we could certainly approach Longmont United first and say, can you deliver this? And if not, we open it back up. Or And I have already had kind of a conversation with one of the Longmont United staff that we go ahead and open it up, and then they become a competitor. I think the one manager approach is what I need. I need somebody from the healthcare world who's managing. Who they bring in, they've got to vet for quality. They've got to vet for HIPAA and insurance and all of that. I don't want to have to do that. I don't want any of my staff to have to do that. So whether they bring in subcontractors or others, that's fine. There was a period of time where Longmont United would not bring in a presenter here who was not Longmont United affiliated. And so I think as we write the scope of services, we want to be really clear that there is a broad use of the healthcare experts that are in this community. Eye care, dental care, hearing, I think we write that into the scope of services, that they've got to be willing to work with those issues, those providers who may or may not be affiliated with their hospital. So I think if we write the scope of services first, then we kind of know where we're headed. I will tell you, I did get an email from Longmont United Hospital this week that they have hired a position called Senior Services Navigator. I have no idea what that means. And I will follow up with Mary and find out exactly what they're thinking. But they don't appear to be reopening the Health Integrated Medicine Center. So, and that's okay, but that's a change. So does that seem appropriate if I came back in February with a scope of services and you all could add to it?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
And Michelle, one quick question. Was counseling part of that one also, or no?
Not mental health counseling, it was not. No.
Okay.
No. That is strictly a city. Brandy and the counselors, that's really us. And the hospital's psychiatric and mental health services have been more along an emergency room evaluation, not ongoing care or ongoing service. So they used to, Longmont United used to have a whole department, but not anymore. Susan, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yes, you mentioned the senior navigator. I can just tell you from my experience, a nurse navigator in the cancer world helps sort through the resources you may need, the side effects you may need. So I would think it would be more of their patients maybe re-entering, the community after hospital stay or lining up what they need to come home.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know that UC Health has a very strong senior program in Fort Collins called the Aspen Club. They have done some marketing of an Aspen Club here in Longmont. And of course, that was pre-COVID. All of our work sort of got refocused the last 9 months. So, there's different approaches to what hospitals are doing. And I think certainly this pandemic has changed a lot. So with your okay, and maybe a show of hands, I will follow up with Longmont United, put that on pause, that do a scope of services, and then we will come back and decide whether we want to open that up to Longmont United or open it up to a broad group, unless you all have an opinion about that today. Marcia.
Two things. First of all, just this is a city service kind of thing, and municipalities do business this way. I don't think that Longmont United would take exception to saying we're gonna have a bid round.
Right.
I don't think they'd have a problem with that.
Right.
The other thing is, I just thought is something that might easily be left out because it's not usual, but I wonder if a COVID long haul screening clinic once in a while for at least the next year or two until people understand would be a good service on the list. Because I'm hearing really frightening numbers of about the people who continue to have symptoms.
Long-term issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Good one. So do you want to just do a show of hands or whether, so okay to do February scope of services, yes or no? Yes, okay. Want to work towards sort of ending with Longmont United and doing an open competitive? Do you want to have Longmont United have a first, I don't know, right of refusal? So open competitive, show of hands. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Longmont United, first right of refusal. 1, 2, 3. All right, I love that. So that helps me to know where my conversation with Mary from Longmont United goes. So we'll see. Yeah, Julie.
So honestly, I'm really, I feel like there's people who are have been on the board longer and have know the relationship. And so I'm sort of either way, it's sort of, in my personal opinion, it's more up to the more senior members on the board, just because you know the situation a lot better than I do.
Well, and so this is
half.
So I appreciate your advice on this. I may or may not follow it. Actually, I may just say goodbye and move forward. But it's good to know what you all are thinking, and I appreciate that very much. A good part of being a social worker is we are not afraid of termination, and it door shuts and other things open up, and I'm okay with ending things and looking at what happens. I want to get something in place that when I retire, it's got some really good strength and longevity, and that's important to me. And so I want to do this right, and want your support. So we'll figure that out. I'm not going to make any rash decisions, but it's good to know where y'all are at. Janine.
No, I have one consideration, Michelle. I think people need to be acknowledged for their past support for the past 20 years. The other side of that is they didn't just cut all of these services for no reason. And, one of my concerns is establishing with them if they may be in a position where they're going to go through another sale. And, I think that for right now, my sense of what's going on there is that they're kind of in a little bit of a precarious situation. So that might have, that may be one of my concerns.
Well, one of the pieces that I didn't speak to that's important to me is the partnership, the relationship. And that's built on communication, follow through, trust. And my staff have experience with Kaiser, with UC Health, with Longmont United on all of those things. And that's actually part of the decision, I think, is do they have an established track record where they have followed through, where they've been a good communicator, where they're invested in a relationship. And I'm not sure how I build that into the scope of services, but that's going to be telling for me. And historically, Michelle Whitmore, Renita, Megan, those three folks have been the heart of that partnership and the relationship. They've all been let go. I don't know the new person. So I got to figure out how we build that relationship partnership piece in. So I'm still working on that one. So maybe I'll talk to I don't know. I'll figure that out. I was going to say, wonder what my husband would say, how good I am at that relationship partnership thing. But those are the elements that they can they can deliver maybe high quality services, but if they're not communicating and talking and building, I don't want them. That I can go and hire or pay somebody to come in and deliver a great program, but I want something more. So I got to figure out how to craft that. Susan.
So if you're going out to UC Health, Kaiser, etc., maybe Dispatch Health is another one you would offer that to?
Yeah, so there's no limit. I mean, if the city, like Marcia says, city does this all the time, when it's an open process, you never know who's going to apply. And as I said, 20 years ago, the YMCA competed. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. I think that's enough, but there'll be more to come. So thank you. Great discussion.
Hey, you guys, I've got another meeting in a few minutes, so I'm going to sign off and I'm going to miss you guys.
Michelle, thank you so much. I'm sad that we didn't get to do flowers and certificates and food and celebrate you, but maybe back later in the spring, we can reconvene and just do something sweet. It'd be nice.
Marcia or somebody already promised that, so don't worry.
Okay.
Last meeting.
I love it.
Take care, Michelle.
A reunion.
Okay, you guys, I'll be in touch about TRG, and it's nice. I love this. Love hearing what's going on. So maybe I'll pop in.
Michelle.
Thank you,
Okay,
Michelle.
bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I'd like to move on to the Springboard member recruitment. Michelle, do you have more information about that?
So I got some information from the city clerk's office. I'm going to put it in the Spring Go. We'll put it out in our regular emails that are going out. And then work towards, hopefully, Marcia and company will have some folks to interview in the spring to fill those two vacant positions. You all can certainly also, as you're talking to people, let them know. We have some other opportunities, and so I just want you to know it won't happen until probably May, maybe, Marcia?
May or June.
May or June. So we have several months to do some recruitment. So we hopefully we'll move in that direction.
I have a question about that. If we are able to recruit someone, do they go online and fill out an application? Just go online and pull up an application and fill it out?
Yes.
And then it won't be considered until later in the spring. Okay.
Correct. And there was one person who had completed an application and I think she hadn't been a registered voter for a year. And so she had to withdraw. So maybe by June, her year will have been completed and she'll be back in the running. I don't know for sure. She's a regular participant here. She'd be a really good board member. I was sad that kicked her out, but yep, just go in, put your application in and go from there.
And did you say we have 2 positions for the senior board?
We do our 1 3-year term and 1 1-year alternate.
Okay.
And if folks are interested, they like Julie, they can come as a guest. So you can always invite them to come and get a feel for it. It's a good time to do that. Yeah. Yeah.
$2021 goals.
Susan, you're muted.
That should be corrected to 2021 goal, not plural. Open the senior center.
So I think that 2021 goals and a 2020 annual report are sort of linked, and typically the outgoing president, Janine, would work on an annual report. My staff and the Friends Board are also trying to figure out what does 2020 year end look like? What did we accomplish? And so I really think, Janine, the annual report for 2020 is probably very short and brief, and will look very different than past reports. And then I think, to Susan's point, what are your goals going forward? Well, you have one now, which is the health and wellness partnership. But if there are some others, I just want to invite you to think about this. This could be a February agenda item, or you could have discussion now, however you want to move forward. So they're slightly linked, but recognizing it's an odd time. Prudence, go ahead.
Just to say I'm leaving the meeting.
Oh, okay. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Prudence.
Happy New Year, Prudence.
Sheila.
Is it possible to get copies of the year-end reports for, say, the last 2 or 3 years?
Yes, I can send those to you. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Phil, I am wondering if, I know last year we met and you assisted me with that annual report, and I'm wondering if that would be possible this year, either at the center or on a Zoom, either one, whatever would work for you, if you have time to do that this year. I know you're rather a busy person these days.
You know, Marcia, I would love to do that. So I'll set that up. With going to Orange, we could actually probably meet in person in one of the rooms here, if that's what your preference is, or we can do it virtually. So whichever works.
I was wondering if, Susan, you might be interested in joining us to get an experience about how that's put together.
Would love to be an apprentice.
So one of the things, and this is really more for Janine, but Susan, I can meet at the senior center. That's probably the best if we want to meet in person, or we can do it Zoom. So you all just tell me what your preference is.
I would love to meet in person. I don't care if I have to wear a mask.
Me too, and I'm going to be clean after today, so.
All right. So I am currently at the senior center Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm actually up in your neck of the woods, Janine. I'm in Spring Creek. So I'll look for the next week or two and set something up with you, Susan and Janine. Okay.
That sounds good.
Thank you.
And I think we can, Susan, you and I and Janine, we can talk about goals for the year. If there's anything anybody has they want to mention today, we can record that, or we can have a more robust conversation in February.
Anyone have anything to add at this point? Art?
I was going to ask Michelle, do you still have positions on, do I understand you still have positions on the Friends Board as well?
We have one position on the Friends Board, Art. I think one.
Okay, and then the other question is, has there been any discussion yet on helping with taxes like they have in the past?
Yeah, so Larry and Maggie, who has been our volunteer coordinator, are working out the details. Some of it was going to kind of revolve around the county moving away from red. So hopefully we won't have another spike, a post-Christmas, post-New Year's spike. So they are working through that, Art, and I believe that will happen.
And do we, at this point, can people call in for appointments yet, or we're not doing any of that yet?
Not yet, not yet. But do you want me to let you know when that happens?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Michelle, in the Go, it says January 21st.
I knew it was the 20th or 21st.
The 21st.
Yeah. But I know that just in the last week, Susan, some information came through from AARP, and I just don't know the details. So I'll get that pulled together and send that out to the board.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to reports?
Sheila has a comment question.
I just have a quick question for Michelle. When she's been,
Oh, I'm good. I'm doing minutes and yeah, so go ahead.
I just wondered what the take up on the virtual Go has been. I know people have been taking classes and attending virtually. Has it been worthwhile?
So I think we're up to about 1,000 people have participated in various programs the last 9 months. Obviously, that's not our 10,000 a month that we were used to when we were open. We've gotten really great feedback on people who are appreciating the weekly email newsletter. And then people are still coming by and picking up the hard copies. So it's not been terrible, but I don't know that we had a goal. I don't know that we knew what to expect. It's been fun. We've had a former board member, Marietta Gonzalez, who now lives in California. She has participated in some of our programs, and a former computer tech volunteer, Henry, who lives in North Carolina. He's been delivering programs and participating. And so there's been some kind of fun connections happening. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. So is it to me for my report, Janine? Is that what you'd like to? You're muted.
I was having a problem with my unmute. All right. I'd like to move on to reports. And Michelle, you get to go first.
So just two things, well, maybe three things, but the Friends annual meeting is January 26th at 3:00. We have always invited the advisory board to attend that meeting. You will get an invitation. If you have been a donor to the Friends, you will get an invitation, but you will also get an invitation as an advisory board member. So be just on the alert for that. It will be virtual, and it will be a Zoom meeting. So you can either call in or video in. Been a lot of questions the last 2 weeks about vaccines for older adults, vaccines for people living in senior independent living. And so just know that I am involved in that. There has been some interest in possibly using the senior center as a vaccination clinic for seniors. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I have certainly said yes. That's a great use of the senior center. Doing some advocacy on behalf of all of the independent senior living facilities, not just the LHA ones, to make sure that we understand the communal living of high-risk population and doing some advocacy. Our city manager has also been doing that, as well as our Boulder County Public Health. So I think we're all aware of the older adult independent living communities and being conscientious of the number of people over 70 who live there. So people are calling, wondering how to get in. I know somebody was on the phone for 4 hours at Kaiser trying to get signed up for a vaccine. So hopefully over the next week or two, that information will become more clear, and we will be a point of trying to get that information out to people. So we're doing our best to be good advocates right now and partners. Yeah, Susan.
So on the Nextdoor website, the Boulder County Community Health had a form to fill out, and some of my neighbors have already been called. They're getting their vaccinations this week.
Yeah, it's about where you get your information and getting on the list. Yep. And I know some people's general practitioners have called them and told them, come in and get your shot. It's just not as easy for some as it has been for others. Yeah, Janine.
Michelle, I don't know if it would come up, but if just for you to know, I am very willing to volunteer my time and services to administer vaccines. If at the senior center, if in any way that comes up as a possibility.
Yeah, that is great, Janine. Thank you for that. And I have indicated we would need to do some things relative to our custodial staff, like bring them back from the rec centers. So
right.
We are taking care of the building. So we'll see how that unfolds. But
okay.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And so we are still working with Longmont Housing. Very excited. We hired a regional asset manager. So some of the work I've been doing a lot of the work is moving to Lisa, but I am still at Spring Creek 2 days a week. Amy is still very, very involved in the renovation at Aspen Meadows and helping folks pack and move and come back, move back in and unpack. And so we're still doing a lot of housing retention, eviction prevention work, and really trying to work with folks to help them stay safely housed. So, and that work will continue. I think our relationship with Longmont Housing and helping people stay housed will continue long after they are fully staffed. So that also is continuing. And I think that's it for me.
Marcia, City Council.
Before we move on that, does anybody, I mean, I don't know that Senior Center or anybody else would have this information, but maybe one of the other board members, do we know how many doses are actually coming into the city of Longmont, places that people can actually get them? I mean, I'm like you, I try to get a hold of VA for 2 days because I'm a veteran and seeing if I can get a shot there, and their lines are busy all the time. And I tried with Kaiser yesterday, and I was on there for over an hour. I still couldn't get through anybody. So I didn't know if anybody has any information as to if people are asking questions, what can we tell them at this time?
I don't know that answer. I'm going to look at you, Marcia, to see if you know anything. And if none of us really have that information, I'm happy to do some digging. But go ahead, Marcia.
Thank you, Michelle. There are several things related to Art's question. I don't have a direct answer, and it's a question that I hadn't heard before, whether we have any liaison to the Veterans Administration. I mean, we don't even have a very good liaison relationship with the county in some respects. You know, we've run into barriers trying to help people with housing assistance and stuff like that, because the people who control the various funds don't talk to each other very well. And that's been a recent hobby horse of mine. First, last night's city council meeting did not, other than than completing pretty much by acclamation the reorganization of the housing authority. Nothing of direct relevance to the senior center really happened last night. Michelle, I wanted to ask, in terms of the year-end report, are you or would the new president, or who will report to the council? Especially now, I think we're going to be still virtual, but it doesn't matter. We need, I'd like to see it on the council agenda. And I think it's especially important. I would also hope that would include as much as you have. I mean, obviously there are dependencies, but the reopening plan, even if it's hooked to a milestone rather than a date, would be excellent, because I know a lot of people are missing the services and are honestly planning their lives around it.
Right. Great point. And so typically it would be the president and myself. So it may end up being Janine, Susan, and I, and certainly all the board would be invited, but make a note of that, Marcia. And I put on the February agenda to talk about the reopening, because we actually are really starting to dive deep into that. So
good
timing for that.
Okay. All right. Excellent. In terms of council policy and city policy, in my the ombudsman part of my role as member of council, I have been noting a lot of confusion and fear around applications for assistance. And, you may be aware that especially with this eviction moratorium being extended by tiny increments so that people never know when they could be hit by a notice to quit. People need the assistance, and they are afraid to apply for it because there's all of this, well, if I'm getting unemployment benefits, I'm not eligible, right? And it's illegal, right? And so we really need to, one, strengthen our liaison relationships with the people who control the various funds. I talked to Karen Roney about it, and she could easily tell me who is administering the money and where the money is, but she couldn't easily tell me how you find your way into accessing some of it if you have a need case. So we need to, the phrase that I've been using is a no wrong door policy, where, you don't have to make more than one cold call. And we need to do outreach, get the message out that, you're not going to get in trouble because you applied for something you're not eligible for, unless you lied to try to make yourself eligible. Harold last night said something I think very encouraging, which he says, when you come to us for help, it is our job to get it right, to lead you through the process. So I think that's a really important message for all of us in public service and in outreach to take to heart, because it's pretty frightening the number of people who could be getting assistance who aren't. And you're muted, Michelle, by the way. Guys, I see you saying, yeah, but so that's my main message from the city is we all need to work harder at dispelling the fear and connecting people with help they need or whenever they do finally pull the plug on the eviction delays, we're going to have a real crisis on our hands.
Yeah, there are definitely also a number of folks who are in fear around accepting benefits because it puts them in jeopardy of their status, and in terms of their residency and citizenship. And so we're really trying to find alternative ways for folks to make sure they can access support wherever it comes from. So a great point, Marcia.
Yep. Any questions for me? Because that's really, those are the main, we should be getting a report soon, but they are looking at breaking ground on new LHA facilities on the land proximate to the suites this spring. So, more housing is coming down the pike. It seems like I say this every year, but there are also a considerable load of affordable housing of various sorts at the permit stage. And I'm hoping that we're going to see more of it coming out of the ground this spring. Okay, well, if nobody's got any questions, I think I'm set.
Area on Aging, I think Sarah sent us all an email and an update on that. Did everyone receive that email?
Yep.
Okay. Friends, Susan?
So again, Michelle stole my thunder. The big thing, yeah. The big thing is they still have a vacancy. But the meeting, if you can attend on January 26th, that would be good. They're sorting out their officers. They've pretty much got everybody set except a vice president as of the meeting. And they're working on closing out the old bank account so everything can follow Jane Cox, who oversees the investments, and it will all be at Great Western. So that should be closed out shortly, and all our investments and checking account funds will be at the Great Western Bank. We didn't hear what you said, Janine.
I'm off mute. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Is that meeting a Zoom meeting?
Yes.
TRG, Michelle has already done her presentation. Boulder County Latino Coalition, Art, do you have anything to report?
We did not meet
Okay.
last month, so I have no report.
I do want to just say that we lost a much loved and fabulous advocate, Nino Gallo, who worked for Boulder County Community Action Programs, passed away from COVID. And it has been very, very hard. I think many of us have worked with Nino for many years. He has family members in the city and in the county in different capacities. And so I think that the members of the Boulder County Latino Coalition have taken this very hard, as have many people. So I just want to acknowledge we've lost many people, but in particular, Nina was a wonderful advocate and fine human being, and I'm sorry that we had to say goodbye.
You know, I owe everybody an apology because in the council report, the first thing I should have mentioned, and I'm just dim on Wednesday mornings because of council evenings. But there was a mayoral proclamation last night designating yesterday, which was Nino's birthday, as Nino Gallo Day. And there was a very touching set of remarks from Nino's family. So you maybe everybody should watch that if you weren't watching the council meeting last night. It's online.
I very much appreciate you saying that, Marcia. Thank you.
I apologize for not getting it in earlier.
Longmont Economic Development Partnership, I do not have anything to report. And sustainability, I think we also received an email with update about that. Michelle?
Marcia, Janine, I actually got a phone call this morning from Sarah Berry, who wanted me to sort of say two things. She references these in her report, but they are not a part of her report. She felt like she was sharing this as a community member, not as a board member. And she just wanted to let the board know that she herself has used Dispatch Health, and has had just fabulous experiences with Dispatch Health. And you'll see in her report that they actually did a presentation to the Aging Advisory Council. And she just wanted to let you all know that she's had really great experience with them. I would say that during COVID, they have been a source for people who maybe had to do a regular blood draw, but didn't want to go to their doctor's office to do that. And Dispatch Health came to them, or they didn't drive. So for a period of time, they couldn't get to their doctor's office, and Dispatch Health would come to them. So she wanted me to give a shout out to Dispatch Health. The other thing in her report, she talks about Liz Parker from the DA's office giving an update on scams and frauds. And so Sarah wanted to also say she hopes that we will do some programs virtually with Liz in the spring on scams and frauds. And that if you all were interested in having Liz come to one of your board meetings, that it might also be worthy of consideration. So you can, that's from Sarah, sort of on the side, I guess.
I'd like to add a little bit to that. I have had conversation with her as I'm working with a client right now who's been a victim of major fraud through the Resource Center. And it is beyond my belief how much of a problem it is, especially since COVID. And seniors are so vulnerable, and the cooperation with the district attorney's office has been phenomenal. And I think it would be wonderful to have her come and do a little presentation for us. She is really delightful. Does anyone else have any other statements, issues, questions? Art?
Marcia, I want to ask you, where's the city at with the chief of police position that looking at filling?
I have no reports beyond what you already know, that the civic engagement survey is out there. I apologize, I don't even know if it's closed yet or not. But I don't know where they are in terms of identifying candidates. I will make a note to find that out for next month. Or if you feel more urgent about it, I can send out a note to the group.
I'm just curious. Just curious.
I feel like the survey closes this Friday. I may be wrong, but I think it's this Friday the survey closes.
Yeah, if you haven't taken it, then get in there.
Yeah.
Where do we find that?
Michelle, for Michelle, how are Veronica and the other intake folks, are they staying busy, extremely busy, or just so-so? Or?
They would tell you they are busier than ever and are so appreciative to have Melissa on board. So they have been doing a lot of resource work normally, plus now that we have this closer tie with the housing authority, there is a whole lot more going on for folks, especially the isolation, the cutoff from other resources. And so Melissa, Amy, and Veronica are busier than ever.
Okay.
And they have continued to do in-person assistance as the orders allowed us to do. And so where other agencies stopped doing home visits, I think Amy had 3 yesterday. Now it might be on the front porch and all they might do is exchange papers. But they are busier than ever. And so when Marcia or Janine was talking about the frauds and scams, I think we've been doing mandatory elder abuse reports. We're working on other scams. That work didn't end. And they continue to stay very, very busy. And they all, Melissa and Veronica plus Monica, have been involved in some of the specific COVID testing outreach clinics to Latino community members. And we've been doing end of life documents for people who are, the COVID piece has really frightened them and their family members. Got a lovely thank you note from one family member for helping pull that end of life paperwork together. So they continue to stay very, very busy.
Okay. And then my final comment is just that if you do get the vaccines or you get something that is going to be made available that you may need some help with here there at the center, I, like Janine, would be willing to help in any way I can too, whether it be checking people in, translating, whatever.
So Art, thank you. And my understanding is that they need a place where people can get the shot and then wait 15 minutes. There's a post-vaccine period of time. And I think that some traffic flow, as well as, just making sure everybody understands and everything is communicated well. And that piece of things, I think they might absolutely want some volunteers. So I will definitely pass your offer and Janine's along. Thank you. I just don't know what that's going to look like yet.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah. To answer Julie's question, the survey is on Engage Longmont, and I will, it's easy to search for, but I'll mail out the link after the meeting.
Thank you, Marcia. Michelle, I'm with Art. If I can help, I don't have the medical background, but if I can help in any way, just checking people in or, just being with them after they've had their shot and that kind of stuff. I have some time that I can volunteer as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think one of the things we still need to talk about is for people who don't have transportation, how would they get here. So I'm hoping to have a conversation with Via about that. And if it comes to be, that'll be another level of that clinic that I think we're going to have to address. Yeah, Susan.
So with the not 1 week notice to people to get to their vaccine appointment, Cultivate is waiving the 1 week requirement to get people to their vaccinations.
Good to know. Thank you.
I love Cultivate.
They're great. Marcia, I just wanted to make a comment. You can pass it on. I thought that questionnaire that came out about Director of Public Safety and what people were looking for and what was important to them, I think that was really well done. I don't know if that was specific to Longmont, but I don't think I've ever taken a questionnaire that comprehensive before, and it really made me feel good about what the city's considerations are in this position. So if you'll pass that on for me.
Yeah, I will pass that on. I think I said before, it is entirely up to the city manager about that hire. And I think he's being tremendously sensitive to the community and conscientious about realizing that this may be long-term the decision he makes that affects us the most. That and saving LHA. So yeah, I will pass that on. I actually don't know who is responsible for designing that survey, but I'm sure he does. So
I actually do know who it was because
cool.
She is a former public safety employee, Elise Flesher. So she was a longtime Boulder sheriff, and then she came to work for Longmont Police, and then she was a researcher. And so, yeah, she was the designer with a group of folks she has her doctorate in criminal justice research and analysis. So she's really quite bright, and she did that. So.
Well, you just know all kinds of cool stuff, don't you, Michelle?
We've had a lot of great city employees come and go through my lifetime.
Yeah.
She's one of them.
Good. Well, you can pass it on too if you know her personally. Janine, we can't hear you. I know you're not muted, but.
How about now?
Yeah, now. Yes,
okay.
Good.
Does anyone else have any questions, any other agenda statements before we take a motion to close the meeting? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would.
Meeting?
I hope that we close it.
And Sheila seconds that motion. Well, thank you all. Please stay well and safe. And I personally am looking forward to getting back to the senior center now that we're orange.
Yep.
So
take care, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year. Again.
Happy New Year is right. Yeah. Julie, I will catch up with you about the manual just as soon as Monica lets me know it's done. Okay.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.